Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 3-year-old killed in St. Mary attack by man of unsound mind. MOE again warns against exorbitant graduation packages. And later in sports, West Indies to fine-tune World Cup preparation with warm-up against Australia today. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie Simpson. Here are the details. A child is dead while his mother is among 5 persons injured in a gruesome attack in Padgy St. Mary Wednesday afternoon. More in this report.
A community has been plunged into mourning following the gruesome murder of a 3-year-old and the injuring of 6 residents. It's understood that some minutes to 4 p.m. Wednesday, a man said to be of unsound mind attacked the child who was walking with his mother. The man was armed with a knife and an iron pipe. The child's mother, family members and residents tried to intervene, but they too were wounded. The deceased child has been identified as Asha Campbell. Superintendent Bobbitt Morgan Simpson is a commanding officer for the St. Mary Police.
A 3-year-old boy succumbed to the injuries that he received during the incident. He received severe injuries all over his body and succumbed to his injuries. There were also 3 adult males who were attacked and injured during the incident, and a little girl who was also a part of the incident who was injured as well.
One of the victims, Philip Brown, says he was treated for wounds to his head, face and hands.
Where me just come from in the evening, and by the time I catch my gate, there's a man say rush. Come lick me down from back way with a piece of iron and start lick me. And the 2 of me have to use a bar in my head for the man to mash you up. I'm going to do the man. I don't know the man. Where he come from.
They just start attacking people randomly.
Them way there. Kind of want somebody in damage. More than one.
In the meantime, the commanding officer says a police team will be visiting the community today.
The community is really upset over the whole incident. However, the suspect in that incident is now in custody and will be dealt with according to law. And we just want to reassure the citizens of Padgy that we'll be coming into this space just to wrap with them and to just get a feedback of how they are feeling in relation to this incident, and to just to reassure them that we're there for them and that we will do everything that we can to assist them and to do the investigations that are needed to ensure that the perpetrator is brought before the courts and justice is served.
For TVJ News, I'm Nakinsky Robinson.
The Independent Commission of Investigations Indicom is probing the killing of an alleged gang leader in Augustown, St. Andrew yesterday by members of the security forces. Marvin Markland, otherwise called Papa, is believed to be the leader of the Gola gang. He was fatally shot during a confrontation with the police. A firearm was reportedly recovered. Yesterday's fatal shooting brings to 54 the number of persons shot and killed by the police since the start of 2024. Indicom says residents have rebuffed the police's account of the incident. It is also appealing to anyone who witnessed the incident to contact its offices at 876-968-1932. To a TVJ News follow-up, the police have released the identities of the 2 people who died in yesterday's crash along the Linders Hill Main Road in Westmoreland. Dead are 37-year-old Matthew Hutchinson of Rough Lane, Glendevon, St. James, and 28-year-old Shade Bennett of Watchwell, St. Elizabeth. Reports are that about 11:30, Mr. Hutchinson, who was driving a Toyota Probox heading to Savlamar, overtook a line of traffic. In the process, he crashed into a Toyota Axio traveling in the opposite direction. Miss Bennett was a passenger in the Axio. Both died on the scene. Education Minister Favour Williams is calling on school boards and administrators to refrain from imposing hefty costs for graduations. Parents have been complaining about the cost of some graduation packages announced by schools. Speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing, Mrs. Williams says schools must take several factors into consideration.
I know that many schools use external vendors to provide the gowns and caps, the photos and other services. We ask that our principals negotiate as hard as they can with vendors. And to the vendors, we say, consider the pockets of the parents.
He says all students should be able to experience graduation.
We don't want graduation to be used to exclude. It is crucial that we are mindful of the financial constraints faced by many of our families and the difficulties and embarrassment it poses when students are not included in graduations. My advice is to make these celebrations as accessible to all as possible. Let us work together to create memorable, inclusive, and meaningful ceremonies that honor our students' achievements without placing undue financial strain on families.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Williams says it is not considered plagiarism when students use artificial intelligence to assist them with their schoolwork. She was responding to teachers who've been complaining about students who use AI to help with SBAs.
Every time you do a query of whatever artificial intelligence site you use, you get a unique answer, and that within the AI world, maybe I'll get in trouble for saying this, but that there is no plagiarism.
However, Mrs. Williams is urging students to credit sources.
That they ensure that they indicate where that information is coming from, who's the author, make sure they use quotes if they're taking something from somebody else's work, and that is clearly footnoted in the work that they turn in.
A High Court judge is to rule today whether dancehall entertainer Vybz Kartel and 2 of his 3 co-accused will be released from custody. This days before the hearing to determine whether there should be a retrial of the case. Ahead of today's proceedings, the security forces have boosted their presence in the precincts of the courts. The retrial hearing for Kartel, whose given name is Adidja Palmer, and his co-accused Sean Storm Campbell, Kahira Jones and Andre St. John is to begin on June 10. A habeas corpus application seeking the release was heard before Justice Andrea Thomas in the Supreme Court yesterday. The habeas corpus application does not include Kahira Jones, who has another matter before the court. The ruling is set for 2 p.m. And it's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Opposition spokesman with responsibility for affairs concerning Portmore Fitz-Jackson is taking the government to task for not outrightly denouncing the Gaza crisis. The war between Israel and Hamas has claimed the lives of hundreds of Palestinians. In his contribution to the sectoral debates earlier this week, Mr. Jackson questioned the government's silence.
Where is our voice in the United Nations, other international forum? Are we just there enjoying and celebrating the titles of membership and of offices? We certainly have not been hearing even a whisper of agitation on behalf of our fellow brothers and sisters in our human family. Mr. Speaker, have we lost our soul? Have we exchanged our soul for some short-term benefits, personal or otherwise, given our promise from those who are perpetrating the genocide and their complicit allies against the people in the Gaza and elsewhere, who not stand up for what is right and just? When it is being perpetrated against others, we have no moral right to expect others to stand with us or for us when we are on the receiving end.
The Mandeville Regional Hospital is reporting a record number of cataract surgeries for 2024. It comes after growing demands for the service. Hashin Burke has the details.
627. That's how many cataract surgeries were successfully conducted over 3 days at a cataract camp at the Mandeville Regional Hospital. That's 50 more when compared to 577 last year. The annual mission sees the Mandeville Regional Hospital partnering with US-based Mind, Body and Soul Ministries. The mission has been coming to Jamaica since 2014 and has done over 2,000 procedures in the last 8 years. Dr. Gavin Henry is consultant ophthalmologist at the Mandeville Regional Hospital.
It's been very smooth this year. I can't think of a major hiccup, which is unusual in something of this magnitude, which is very hard to do. To do 627 patients in 3 days is normally impossible in many jurisdictions. So I feel particularly proud that we have been able to achieve this.
And despite the achievement, CEO of Caribbean Community for the Blind, Dr. Arvel Grant, while citing WHO figures for cataract globally, wants the annual cataract camp to be expanded to 2 camps per year.
If we could get to a place where we easily do 2 camps, a spring camp and an autumn camp, sometime in the future, this region will do the following. The WHO is satisfied that mature cataracts occur 2,000 per million population. That means in Jamaica, 6,000 mature new cataracts occur every year. In this region, that equates to about 1,200. So when camp comes and does beautifully 600, they've really helped this region, eliminated 600 of the new cataracts which occurred in the last year.
In the meantime, Dr. Henry said the camp helped to lessen the waiting time for patients and praised the quality of the surgeries. The cataract mission is highly anticipated each year, with individuals traveling from across Jamaica to get the procedures done. Halshane Burke, TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Business leaders around the world are being urged to expedite climate resilience measures in a bid to safeguard global production. The call to action comes amidst the findings of a report from the global auditing firm PwC, which found that essential commodities face heightened exposure to heat stress and drought risks due to climate change. PwC says although reducing emissions will decrease heat and drought risks, key commodities will still face significant stress. According to the analysis, even if global carbon emissions rapidly decrease, 87% of the world's rice production will be at risk in 2 decades. Department store chain Kohl's has cut its annual sales and profit forecast on Thursday after posting a surprise quarterly loss on weaker consumer demand for its apparel and footwear, dragging its shares down 22% in pre-market trade. American consumers are prioritizing essential purchases over non-essentials like apparel, electronics and home goods as they are faced with the resumption of student loan repayments, dwindling pandemic-era savings and higher interest rates. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Halshane Burke.
Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, Haiti's new Prime Minister Gary Conille has vowed to seek unity in his first statement since being selected to head the government. Conille thanked civil society groups, political parties and members of the Haitian diaspora who proposed him as a candidate, saying he was very honored to have been chosen. He now faces a monumental task with Haiti under siege by gangs that control at least 80% of the Port-au-Prince capital. On the international scene, the first results have been announced from what is seen as South Africa's most closely fought elections since the African National Congress ANC came to power 30 years ago. With results from around 19% voting districts accounted so far, the ANC is leading with 43%, followed by the Democratic Alliance with 25%. Final results are expected over the weekend. And France's president has joined the head of NATO calling for a policy shift to allow Ukraine to strike military bases in Russia with long-range weapons provided by Western partners. This has been a delicate issue since Moscow launched its invasion in February 2022. Western leaders have shied away from taking the step because they run the risk of provoking Russian President Vladimir Putin, who has repeatedly warned that the West's direct involvement could put the world on a path to nuclear war. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Nakinsky Robinson.
We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports with Spencer Darlington.